The sailing vessel Ocean Bound is still unreported on their passage from Mazatlan to Cabo San Lucas. The people were my slipmates in Mazatlan prior to their departure. The boat looked in reasonably good condition. Kerry and Frank O'Brien were waiting for, I believe, a paid crew member, William Gross, or Bill as he's known, to arrive, and they were going to do some final preparations and then set off. Bill, when he walked down the dock to get aboard Ocean Bound, was delighted to see that Milagro was in the next slip. Bill was one of my very early subscribers, and we had a number of quite long conversations about YouTube, about sailing, about his plans for the future, and of course the trip across and the bash up to San Diego. I didn't really have many discussions with Kerry and Frank. They seemed to be pretty busy all the time, but Bill and I seemed to get on quite well. He was interested in my adventures. So when they left on April the 4th, it was actually around sometime between 2 and 4 in the afternoon, not at 9:30 like the BOLO states. The weather at the time, I can't really comment. The sea hadn't been that bad over the previous week. 20 knot northerlies, 3 to 4 foot seas. And because we're in a marina, I didn't actually, you don't check the weather if you know you're going to be in a marina for a few weeks. But according to the Coast Guard, the weather was potentially far worse than that. 25 to 30 knots with 15 foot seas. They wouldn't have realized that had they when they left the Mazatlan Marina, because that part of the coast is sheltered for about the first 15 miles out. Their plan was to stop in Cabo. The reason they were going to stop in Cabo is the Fonitor Marina in Mazatlan didn't have any diesel. They had some diesel on board, I don't know how much, and they jerry-jugged some extra diesel on board, and they were going to set off on a 213-mile passage to Cabo San Lucas and stop there and refuel to do the Baja Bash back up to San Diego. They'd spent the time taking apart the Raycor filters, they cleaned the bowls, they knew they were going to do a lot of motoring, so they did as much preparation as they could, and should have been a beam reach across the Sea of Cortez. It would have taken them 30 to 36 hours to get across, and a few days later I saw on Facebook that a BOLO had been released. Be on the lookout for Ocean Bound, which was a bit of a shock to the system, because I thought they would have got there by then and carried on round the Cape and were heading up towards San Diego. I posted something on Facebook in a comment on somebody else's post with some details. As a result of that, Melissa, Bill's daughter, made contact with me, and we exchanged a number of emails to give Melissa some first-hand information, because there was a lot of information on Facebook with people commenting that really wasn't what had happened, or it was misinformation. So Melissa was confused, and so I went through with her the details of what I knew, and we exchanged those emails over a period of days. I suggested that the Coast Guard contact El Cid Marina at the entrance to Mazatlan to see if they'd actually picked up fuel there, which would have been perfect. But the Coast Guard had already done that and confirmed that no fuel was picked up at El Cid. In one of the conversations I had with Melissa, I did put up the idea that maybe they'd changed their mind about motoring and decided to do the old Clipper route, which is you leave Cabo San Lucas and you head about 1/3 of the way to Hawaii on one tack, and then when the angle's right you tack back into San Diego. It saves all the gunk holing up the coast. You get consistent winds, and it's something that the old clipper ships used to do. Melissa confirmed that wasn't likely to be the case because Bill would have been late for work. He had only organised a certain amount of time off, and doing that clipper route would have taken a couple of weeks, and he would have had to have been back at work at that time. So that was dispelled. US Coast Guard, in contact with the Mexican Navy, sent out ships. The Mexican Navy looked for the vessel in the Puerto Vallarta area. That would have been the way it was blown. If they'd have lost engine power, or they'd lost the mast, or nobody really knows what's happened. And the US Coast Guard were sweeping the Pacific coast of the Baja. They then put up planes to again search that strip of the coastline, and to date nothing's been heard of from them, and I believe now the search and rescue operation has been called off. What happened to Ocean Bound? They still may be okay. It's a long shot. They might have gone the Clipper route. Nobody knows. I don't think we're probably going to ever know. I mean, hopefully they're okay, and they're just going to turn up in San Diego with smiles on their face and have a great story to tell. But personally, I don't think that's going to be the case. Bill was a highly experienced yachtsman, 50 years. He knew what he was doing. Just for the conversations I had with him, it was obvious that he was, he was an experienced sailor. In fact, looking to buy his own boat. And we were discussing what sort of boats were of interest to him. It's certainly odd that nothing's been heard of, nothing's been spotted in the water. I don't know whether the boat had EPIRB or what sort of communication equipment they had on it, but the boat seemed pretty well founded. It obviously got here from I believe Canada at some point in the past. It's just a sad story. I haven't given up hope. I still think there's an outside chance. But if they have been lost at sea, then I feel for the families suffering that sort of loss. And I think above all, not knowing what happened must be awful. So my prayers and wishes go out to both sets of families, and Melissa, I hope I was of some help. So let's pray they're okay.